Thank you. Okay, so here I'm coming mostly to present OSM, but I'd like to double-click on what is the new extension to OSM, because it's an old project in the ecosystem. So I will take for granted that somewhat you are familiar with some of the concepts. So I'll go a bit faster on those, and I'll focus on the new ones that I think that probably will be the most interesting for all of you. So OSM has changed its scope recently to extend it. So we could accommodate better the new type of components for a real cloud deployment for 2024, 2025, and so on. So we are no longer at the beginnings of HCNV. It's a different decade, and there are different challenges. So now OSM is in charge of managing not only the applications, the CNFs, the VNFs, and so on, but also the platforms that this is a thing that we'll see during the presentation, and also managing the on-cloud infrastructure whenever it makes sense, okay? Cloud platform, so that means that it's a multi-cloud as it was in the past, but now extending the challenge, and the key here is in the easiest way, so the end user does not become super confused in all this mix in a super ambitious thing. This is this is an old slide recycled, because this was the statement of what OSM did in the past, but modified with yellow, and that subtlety is very important. Is that it's not only managing network functions anymore, but also can manage other components of the infrastructure, or some components that are in between both, right? It's still a specialized pass for network functions and infrastructure, and also the key is that it needs to deploy those applications in a manner that they are ready for their use, right? That is the key, and it's encapsulating all the knowledge. And the point is that something that's been since the foundation of OSM, do not reinvent the wheel. That's been the motto, and that remains, even with that challenging aspect. I will start by presenting the latest release of OSM, because they will set the ground for the rest of the presentation. Why this release is very important for what the goal of OSM, because OSM is no longer the way of capturing know-how and a complex choreography of steps that need to happen. That was what traditionally orchestration was, but also is also orchestrating not only what happens in the time, but also what happens in space and what happens in information, right? And that I hope that I will explain that much better in a minute. But essentially, what we are incorporating is a new set of operations for cloud native, and it's including even a new engine for cloud native operations. So we will encapsulate those operations in a very convenient manner from our point of view. Second, in order to implement that new scope, we have started from some of the most interesting past platforms that are the management of Kubernetes cluster. That is something that was demanded, and now we are supporting in the 3 major public clouds the management of past clusters and integrating them with the deployment. And of course, we are continuing with everything else that we were doing in the sequence and the choreography in the time, right? So it's of course, we are adding security enhancements. We are continuing enhancing the operational capabilities that we have for the OSM that you all knew. And in spite of all this massive explosion of functionality I will see, we are still providing an all-in-one installer, because that is very important that we get feedback for real users. It's not over the paper, it's not about the list of the features. Anyone who is using OSM, we want to hear about their experience. So the next release will be better, right? In essence, will be better for anyone who is planning to use it. It's useful for someone, right? Just to summarize the situation, as I said, we were a traditional orchestrator, an NFV orchestrator in the past, where we had mostly imperative operations, although NFV operations are not imperative, so I'm being a bit simplistic here, but the point is that it was the classical OSM, NFV-like operations, plus something that was unique in OSM, that were day 1 and day 2 operations. This is what I meant by the choreography, things that need to happen in a given sequence. But now OSM since release 16 is twice as big because it also includes a second engine that is complementary to the first one. So we are not discontinuing the first one by no means, because that is required for many situations. But as much as we can treat the configuration as data and enable Kubernetes-like operations. So we can have a continuous synchronization whenever that is applicable for the workload. Everyone is talking about declarative, so I will try to explain for those who are just thinking, okay, this is the same thing that I've heard before. But let's try to clarify why this is important. And this is a crucial change, because essentially what we are implementing is a bridge between a sources of truth, data, or what is the desired state, and what needs to happen in the remote clouds, right? And that synchronization happens in two directions. One, if I change my desired state into sources of truth, automatically that needs to be implemented. And conversely, if anything goes wrong in those clouds and differ from what I'm trying to fix it, right, actively, okay? That has many advantages from an operational point of view in a large deployment, because you have a safe storage of the intents. We are working about data, right? And the history can be versioned, the authoring can be versioned, so it has many practical advantages in a large realistic deployment. But also, I mean, that continuous reconciliation matters because it gives you some relief on what is trivial, right? And also now the technology is at a place where you can leverage on a massive amount of tooling around Kubernetes and GitOps ecosystem to make it happen without reinventing the wheel from scratch. Okay. So now this new OSM engine sits in two places. One is decomposing high-level intents. Not necessarily you need to inject complex intents in those sources of truth, so we can decompose them. We are doing that. Also, we are implementing transactions over those intents, and also we are exposing an MBI, Sol5-like, but with new API calls for implementing these transactions. And also, in the cases where we see that the existing tooling, the ecosystem of operators and CRDs is not sufficient for OSM, we can provide ours, but not reinventing the wheel. So we'll reuse as any well-established operators and CRDs that exist and are fit for the purpose. Okay, and why this is important? Because not always you can do declarative operations, or whenever the declarative operation fit, clearly they have advantages. First, because the desired state is obvious. You know what you were trying to achieve. It's not about the sequence of many steps that were happening, right? And you need to understand at which sequence they happen. It's inambiguably captured. And also, a new deployment is essentially copying that state. Again, we are talking about data, not about a choreography. The rollbacks are very simple, so in case that you made a mistake, you can revert it easily, and debugging is much easier, the starting point, right? On the other hand, the onboarding is more, I would say, natural. I mean, if you are familiar with the Kubernetes ecosystem and you have Kubernetes-like applications, it's much simpler. And OSM you'll see in a minute, will make it super trivial to do that onboarding. So you don't need to understand NFV-like operations, packaging, all that. You simply can insert it in a given manner, and OSM will do the rest, as we'll see. And last but not least, from the perspective of the development, it extends the capabilities, because we can, of course, leverage on Python libraries, but also in Kubernetes operators as we need, and sometimes for high-level operations that are maintained at the pace at which the clouds are evolving is the right vehicle to achieve those results. So, well, this is the high level, hopefully. Is clear, but how we achieve it? Of course, I mean, first thing first, we put a management cluster in the middle. This is what achieves the magic of creating that connection. Probably is not surprising. And also we are leveraging first on synchronization with sources of truth via Flux. And in order to manage complex objects in the clouds, we have a representative as cross-plane or cluster API when it's required, right? And this is give us the possibility of transferring that state from the left to the right, right? And you would say, okay, just applying Kubernetes sort of, well, but this sounds like GitOps. It sounds like GitOps. Yeah, so why not? It's not enough just to doing it. The first is because you need, in real applications, you need to grant some synchronization order. at large scale, right? So for instance, if you need to create a cluster, you need to make sure that the cluster is ready before trying to apply anything. Otherwise, you have dirty timeouts and so on. You want to avoid massive duplication of intents in a large deployment. You want to facilitate that maintenance. You want to protect sensitive data. The last thing that you want is to commit some secret in a Git repository. That's not a good thing, so you should prevent that actively. Creating the resources on the clouds. I mean, just creating an EKS cluster involves creation of 20 elements in the cloud, so you are actually providing a fully compliant cluster, and also the bootstrap observable clusters. I mean, you have one component in the cloud that in turn can host other components of the cloud. Both of them you want to manage them, so you need to produce the bootstrap, that magic that incorporates it to the framework, right? So that is a lot of complexity in practice. So OSM is implementing new modeling for that. So things become as simple as possible for operating a large cloud in a multi-cloud environment. So the first concept is the KSU, which is a minimal unit of state synchronization. Say that you have it's either a CNF or an application, etc. You can understand that this is anything that follows KRM and can be applied to the remote location, but we are not asking the user to use that, because otherwise that would be native GitOps. What we do is that the KSU, we are asking the user to encapsulate it in profiles. By the way, they can have as many profiles as they want, right? What is a profile? It's a set of KSUs that must be synchronized together, either to one cluster or a collection of clusters, right? And after that, what we do is that work by reference. So we define what we call a cluster intent, which can also include the remote clouds, because the remote clouds are managed from a management cluster as well. So it's a general concept. And what we define is layers of synchronization. So make sure that the infrastructure controllers are ready before we apply infrastructure configurations. And when both of them are ready, then we can deploy either applications or we can orchestrate remote cloud resources. That is the key. And the thing is that we are attaching profiles to those layers. We are asking the user to say, okay, this profile belongs to this infra controller, the infra controllers, so synchronize it first. And the thing is that the trick is that one profile can be attached to multiple layers in the multiple clusters at once, so you just can touch in one place. And OSM will do the rest in terms of synchronization, injection of keys, etc., encrypting, anything. Everything happens naturally here. Well, I will not go into much detail. This is very probably distributed. I mean, what are the type of components that will fall into each of these categories? Probably you're familiar, but essentially infrastructure add-ons are things that belong to the actual cluster. Configurations are probably we'll see some example now. So say it will be easier now, okay? This is the result of a clean OSM installation. It gives you a management cluster of OSM, and also you have created an intent for that cluster as well in the sources of truth. And yellow represents where we are adding things, right? Infrastructure controllers in principle, so we have the initial seed of what OSM does here in this cluster. After some time, we realized that we want to connect to some network, so we need to provide credentials, so that different configurations hook into those clouds. And eventually we say, okay, maybe I want to create a Kubernetes cluster, say, in Azure. So this will do that, and the cluster will be created, but we have not finished. Actually, what we'll do is that we've created a cluster intent for that cluster. So there is a bootstrap, and that cluster is hooked. So we can control it for the sources of truth. We only are talking with the sources of truth all the time. Of course, we can replicate this way of work, but say, here we are deploying our own applications. So far, so good. And now say, okay, let's replicate it in Google Cloud now. Well, first, there was a simplification. We are using profiles, actually, behind the scenes, okay? I'm showing them. So say that I want to copy and paste, essentially. So first, I will create a cluster here. Second, I will point to my prior profiles, and OSM will do the rest for you. So if eventually I wanted to upgrade my OpenAIRE to a new version, say, where would I touch? I will touch MP3 in the third profile only. If I have 1,000 clusters, I will propagate it to 1,000. Okay, that is the trick. Okay, you can see a real demo of all this. Unfortunately, we could not bring it, but it's a full scenario in AWS, auto-scaling and everything, so we are managing everything at that scale. Okay, in case that some of you are interested in seeing how it works. Some takeaways for you. I mean, the new OSM extends what it is without discontinuing what we did, because that is still needed for many applications that still require a choreography in the time, but now we are extending to the information and to the space. And this is a significant change for OSM. It means essentially a new additional engine. The night GitOps, some of the takeaways, is not sufficient at the scale, so you need some helpers, OSM or any other tool, to help you with that journey. And also this new engine is trying to be as less intrusive for application users as possible, so they still keep on using their manifest, their Helm charts, etc., their own operators, whatever that they are doing already can be easily inserted in this framework, was one of our premises, and for that we are introducing new concepts so that information can be successfully encapsulated so OSM can do the rest, what you have seen in these slides. Okay, and that's all that I have. So thank you for your attention.